Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. I got to do something here on the back screen, so just bear with me. I forgot something else. It's Wednesday. I always forget something, and it's the screen. Just give me a sec. There you go. And I have the moon in my hands. So there we go. Now we're officially underway, folks. The Paranormal Portal is now open. Thank you all for joining me as we dive into the Wednesday show. It's been a long time. I've missed you guys, but I'm like a boomerang. You throw me out, and I'm going to circle back eventually, and here I am. And here you are. And we got a whole festive, fun celebration of the paranormal underway. I am welcoming a guest tonight, a longtime friend of mine personally. He's been on the show a few times as well through the ages, and by God, I roped him back in to make another appearance. And I'm speaking of course, of my wonderful friend, Mr. Shane Grove of From the Shadows podcast. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Brent. Thank you so much for, welcoming me back to the show after the last time I totally sank your live. I mean,
you did not.
It shows what kind of friend you really are. Is that you had me back.
Well, I'm a glutton for punishment, but you're the kind of punishment I love, brother. So awesome, man. How's everything been going?
Oh, it's been going pretty good. Just staying busy. You know how it is when we sign up for this sort of stuff. It never stops.
Yeah,
it never stops. So you're always busy.
Yeah, it is, but it's a labor of love, right?
So what's the? Oh yes, no, it is. Yes, it's a labor. It's a labor of love. It definitely is. No, I enjoy. This has been one of the most fun endeavors I've ever taken on is doing the podcast and over the years getting to meet all you guys that I've become friends with, and and then all the guests that we've had on, all the people that have felt like we're the place they want to come share their experiences with, and a lot of people become good friends. Even guests on the show.
Yes. Yeah, I've created some long time friendships with people that have been on the show, but Could you just take a couple minutes at the front end here? If people out there aren't familiar with your podcast, what is From the Shadows and what do you guys do?
From the Shadows is a show that our main focus is talking to people who, everyday people want to come on and share a paranormal experience, no matter what it is, whether it's ghost, UFOs, Bigfoot, Dogman. It's very similar to the program that you run.
Yeah.
We kind of that's what we love to do. We love to talk to people and let them share video,
Mm-hmm.
pictures, their story. Um, and we're God, six, almost what I see. We're closing on 600 episodes.
Yeah.
So um and now we also do, which is some people's favorite. They like it more than the paranormal. We do a show in the middle of the week called the Midweek Howl, which is kind of, it's funny. Well, we think it's funny. That's a sliding scale, of course.
Sure.
But I do that with a retired FBI, Homeland Security, Highway Patrol guy. We call him the Ozark Howler because for various reasons he does not appear on camera or we
Oh,
give his real name, but he is one of the funniest storytellers ever. And it's just kind of that part of the show has kind of evolved into, kind of like a weekly check in of what's going on in our lives. And for some reason, people love it. I don't understand. We don't understand. And
yeah.
it's weird because the people that love the paranormal part, sometimes, it's not all the same audience.
Yeah.
Some people will just listen to the midweek howl, and other people just listen to the paranormal. There's many that listen to both, but it's weird to see that done. And then, as our shows, you know, all go out all over the world.
Right.
So you hear and talk to people from places you'd never imagine would listen to you. And when you get a message from somebody in Norway that
Yes.
they love the story about, the Ozark Howler arresting somebody in a trailer park. You're like, how does that even relate? But look, hey, but that's part of it. It's awesome to be able to be part of people's lives a couple times a week. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what we're all about. We do it. We do a live, well, not live, but we do video on YouTube, so you can see the guest. Most guests are okay with showing their face
Mm-hmm.
and being out there because they just want to share their story, and they want people that aren't going to judge them, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and that's the best part because I don't judge anybody by what story they're telling. I think everybody's is sincere that comes on that has
Mm-hmm.
actually experienced something, and I don't always know what it is, or I don't always have the right answer for them, but I'm here to listen and help them maybe feel a little bit better about what they don't know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. You know what doesn't make sense to me is the fact
What's
that
that?
you've been sitting in here talking to me, and you're chatting at the same time, dude. What the hell's going on? You a multitasker?
I'm chatting at the same time. I am not chatting.
I
I will bet that Nita is on there chatting.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh my god, how's he
I
doing
can't
this?
even listen. I gotta be honest. I can't even read the chat.
Oh, you
It's so
can't.
small on my phone. I'm
Oh,
sitting here trying to read it. So,
I was so
so
impressed.
every,
I was gonna introduce you to Dave Scott. That guy can like do 15 things at once. It's just like amazing to me. I was like, God, how's he doing this? I'm seeing your pop up out there. But
no, I would if I could read them. I would try, but
oh, okay.
it's so small on my phone.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here like trying to see what am I missing. And so
yeah.
Nita is always, she's behind the scenes, and I should give a shout out to Nita as our we call her, fans of the show know her. She's our social media queen. She's all over doing
Oh,
a lot of stuff all over social media for us, and making sure that I get in contact with all the people that reach out to us.
sure.
Phil, our producer, Phil asked me last night. He goes, "Well, why doesn't Brent want to have me on the show?"
Oh,
And I said, "Well, Phil, it's because nobody likes you." No, I didn't say that, but
evil.
Phil's our producer, does a great job.
Yeah.
He's a very talented man. So Phil and Nita are integral parts of the show. It would not exist if they were not
Yeah.
working behind the scenes. Because I'm not like I'm not as talented as you or Mr. Germer. And I don't, you guys are magicians when it comes to doing, all this all by yourself and doing your shows sound great. And I know you guys do it all by yourself. I, I can barely just get the mic hooked up and get somebody on a Zoom call. I
Sure.
mean, what are you talking about?
Yeah. No, I gotcha. Hi, Mark, Eddie. Good to see you all. Everybody, thank you for coming in. And once again, this is Shane Grove of From the Shadows podcast. Now, Shane, how long have you guys been doing this podcasting stuff?
Oh boy, we started in late 2019.
Okay.
Our listeners know the judge.
Yep.
And I think the judge did. I think we were on your show way back in the day, probably
Yep.
at one point, right?
Yeah, the judge.
And so the judge had shared his Dogman story on a couple different podcasts,
Yes.
and he came to me and he said, "Hey, we ought to start a podcast. We like talking about this stuff."
Yeah.
Well, typical of the judge, he gets me into a lot of things that sound great, but neither one of us knew how to do anything with it. I hadn't even listened to a podcast in 2019, and when we started, that's how naive we both were.
Sure.
And so the judge was on with me for quite a while with our original producer Jason, and Jason sadly passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
2022 maybe, I think it was, and maybe 23. And the judge he's so busy, he's not on very often anymore,
Sure.
but he's still a part of what goes on and stuff. And in fact, I'll let the cat out of the bag. The judge is going to tape an episode of a reboot of Monster Quest.
Oh, fantastic. Really
And he's
cool.
going to tell his Dogman story on a new Monster Quest, and actually some of our guests are going to go on and tell some of their stories. So we're kind of excited to be a small part of that endeavor. So it's kind of cool. So yeah, the judge is still a party. He checks in. We're actually doing a Bigfoot show or a Bigfoot
Conference.
well, it's not a conference, it's a festival in
Okay.
Loudonville, which Loudonville is near Mohegan and Salt Fork and in that area over there. So I think B Mills and Matt Pruitt are going to be there. The judge and I are going to do a live show in the theater, interview some local guests and stuff. So I think that's September 20th. That's kind of exciting coming up. We don't do a whole lot of that stuff just because we're busy.
Right.
We just don't.
Yeah.
We'd like to get out and see people more, but I don't know that there's a big demand to see us more.
I guess that's the Mohican Bigfoot Festival in September 20th in Ohio.
Yeah, I think it's called the Mohican Bigfoot. They'll kill me if it's not called the Mohican.
That's what Nita says.
That's what Nita said. Okay, see?
Yeah.
See, she's answering. Thanks, Nita.
Yeah, she's filling in all the dots. Now, is the just out of curiosity, is that the reboot of Monster Quest, is that being handled by Doug and Alex Hijack?
I have no idea. Okay. I talked to one of the producers, and I didn't ask detail. Sure. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who was.
I was just curious.
I don't know who was rebooting it. We got. I shouldn't say drug into it, but we got drug into it by our good friend Stacy Brown.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Stacy's great.
He was, I think, going to do going to do an episode, but he's got some other things going on. But he got them in touch with us, and
Oh,
oh my
fantastic.
God, now I can see the live chat.
Oh, nice. There you go. Technology.
Maybe,
Well,
maybe it's my eyes are so bad. I
are they?
can't.
No worries. So, again, for all of you guys out there, maybe this is a good time to show the clip. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, yeah.
That'll,
Well,
since we've been
yeah.
talking
This is
about it.
I sent you a clip from this week's show coming up on Friday. So
And
we got a really good guest coming up, and roll the clip, I guess, if you got it.
I got it, and we should be ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is From the Shadows podcast. It's available on all the platforms. So just do a search wherever you get your podcast from and look for From the Shadows and get subscribed and have a listen. But if you have never, this is what you can look forward to.
Grandpa Ed walked out and lit up his cigarette, and he's looking off of the porch and takes a drink of his drink, whatever he's doing. And he says he looked out into the wooded area, and as he caught his eyes, he seen something black inside of the brush. Well, when he stopped, whatever it was stood up, and it was like a dogman. In our culture, it's called a ruggaroo, right? Louisiana culture. And he says it stood up and it just stared at him. And my grandpa's not an easy one to startle. He's quite a large guy as well. So he's stuck. And I heard it on another podcast. The best word for it was like they were rooted. You know, once they seen it, it was it's fear. It's a culmination of a lot of things, I think. But it rooted him. He stopped, and his only thought was either I can try to get back inside, I can try to run where I can. But my grandpa said he took about 3 steps, and by the time he took his 3rd step, this thing was already on him, up on top of him.
Oh my God, that's intense.
How about that? How about that? That's yeah, that's this week we got Kyle. That was Kyle. He came on, he got a hold of me. He's originally from North Dakota, really close. So that story he was telling took place I mean, almost to the Canadian border, if I remember right. And it just it just was the beginning of a lifetime of experiences, paranormal, supernatural, whatever you want to call it, that he has had. And so he shared his grandpa's story to kind of set the stage, and it was just, amazing. And I think Chippewa. He's part Chippewa. So I feel, and I don't know how you feel, but when I talk to people who are, have a connect, they're Native Americans, part of their family is Native American, they have that history, that those roots they go way back.
Yeah.
It's just, you learn so much from talking to those people. I mean, they're really open and share their history and what they do and how they look at things. And I always am amazed at what a grasp they have on nature.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and how to come in contact with it in a positive way and an uplifting way, and how it helps direct them through their life. I mean, so Kyle's going to come on Friday to tell his story, and then in an upcoming episode, Kyle's father, who is a police officer, has some crazy stories that he's going to come and share as well from being in law enforcement. So I'm super excited about that will come out too. But I mean, it's great. It's great to talk to him and that he wanted to share his story with me.
Yeah. It's interesting. And again, you said they really in tune with nature. And I think it's the culture was very traditionally geared towards living in balance with their surroundings. I mean, they lived in probably in proximity and in company with these odd things that are, we're just still trying to wrap our heads around for centuries or thousands of years, and so it's pretty crazy. The one thing that I thought was interesting is that he said we call them rougarous, which is very Cajun, though, right?
Yes, and I asked him that. I said, "Where, why do you guys up in North Dakota,
Yeah.
why do?" And he said that is where the tribe kind of came up. Like their history is coming up from
the Gulf.
Louisiana and that in Central America type, and so who which came first, the Rougarou in North Dakota or the Rougarou in Louisiana?
Yeah.
Did the people look? So when you hear that, that in our minds, when they were the population in North Dakota and the population in Louisiana first took hold, like there shouldn't have been any way that should have, mixed. It wouldn't seem like it should. But
I was a little taken back by that, but then again, maybe it's a familiar term for any number of reasons. I know that a lot of, it's the French Canadians, of course, up in Quebec and stuff, and of course the French settlers from way back. Maybe that was more of a French term that just kind of migrated as well. But that's very cool. That's really interesting.
And maybe they got it from the Chippewa. Because I've never heard it used by a Native American tribe. I've never heard.
Yeah, me either. That was what really shocked me. It was like, wow, okay, that's a new take, but that's very cool. And how long is that episode? Just out of curiosity.
It's about an hour. Yeah, we try to, how it is. Sometimes you get a guest on that has. If you're on a roll, you just let it go. It's like butter. You just let it go.
Sure.
And but we try to keep in mind that the listeners have a certain amount of time, and
there's always that's for sweet spot. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I get reminded all the time. Phil, I'm gonna throw Phil under the bus. He tells me all the time, "Hey, look, you got to keep these episodes to 40 minutes." And I'm like, "Says who?"
Yeah.
Like people listen, nobody tells Joe Rogan, right?
Nobody tells Joe Rogan anything. I don't think he doesn't want to hear. But not that we're Joe Rogan, but we're working on it.
Maybe Joe Rogaine. I don't know.
Yeah. But, well, that's fascinating, and it's fantastic. So, of all of the topics that you guys cover, are there any that resonate more with you than others, or what would you say is the one that you really, I don't know, get most excited about?
Well, that's a tricky question because I relate the most to ghost stories because I've had my own ghost experience, paranormal experiences with ghosts.
Right.
But like all people of your and my generation, Bigfoot was the thing that we grew up in awe of. Like, what the heck is Bigfoot? Does this thing really exist? So I love to hear Bigfoot stories, but I will tell you this, the Dogman stories are what really moves the needle for listeners. Yeah. Listeners really love the Dogman stories, and I don't know, even though the judge had his own experience, that's the most mysterious thing for me to hear a story about.
Yeah.
Because I can wrap my head around a ghost. I can wrap my head around a Bigfoot. I can wrap my head around UFOs. Okay. Mm-hmm. I cannot wrap my head around a dog man type creature in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. I have ideas and stuff, but they're just ideas. It's not like I'm out looking to try to capture one or anything,
Right. Now you're in Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the region that's and you and Judge grew up together, right? You knew each other.
Yeah, we live in the same community that we grew up in.
Is there a pattern of sightings of Dogman in that region?
Well, the really interesting thing is one of the shows he was on and shared his story was Shannon LaGrose.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And from that show, she forwarded an email, okay, that this person was describing something that happened to them in that same area. So the area where the judge's encounter took place, the road he ran down, and where he lived and our buddy lived there at the end of the road on the highway. We could tell by this email that this, I think it was a woman, I think, sorry, but the story that she was describing, like we could tell right where it was at because this was like a little neighborhood out in the country where we went to school. Like our elementary school was less than a mile away. Okay. So this is like an area where we had friends, we were in all the time.
Yeah.
And so we could tell this woman starts telling the story about, something that happened one night with her Dobermans. Okay. And we're just kind of like, that's weird. We never, like, of course, back in the 80s, there was no social media, there's no anything. Like, and people didn't share this type of information.
Right.
But she's sharing this from the same time period. Okay. And we thought that was odd. And then Linda Gottfried kind of put us on to the Indian burial mound idea, like kind of coordinating with Dogman sightings. And we found that there was an Indian burial mound in the field next to where the judge was running, and one in the field where we surmised this lady had her idea. Again, we had no idea there was burial mounds out there.
Wow. Okay.
And so then as we go a little bit further, a good friend of ours, he relayed a story to us that in the same area, like maybe east of where the judge had his sighting, there was a sheep farm that this friend of ours, aunt and uncle had a sheep farm, and they woke up one morning and a bunch of their sheep were just annihilated.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
And he remembers he must have been 9 or 10 years old because he's younger than us. He remembers they had no idea what it was. The paw prints that they saw were huge, and the stuff that was done to the sheep, the sheriff's department could not believe.
Oh,
Like,
really?
because back then in the 80s, we did not have coyote. Like we have coyotes around here now, like you wouldn't believe.
Sure.
There's no coyotes back then in the 80s.
Yeah.
There's barely deer. There was barely deer. Seeing a deer was a big deal for a while here in Ohio when I was growing up. If you can believe that. Now you can't even hardly go. But anyway, so the judge has actively tried to find that report.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But he doesn't, like, he's tried to get the sheriff's department to dig it up. But, as happens a lot, the sheriff's department had moved from the time that, they built a new facility and stuff. He has not had any luck. He's still trying. Okay. But we also then, I just got a gentleman doing some work at our house last fall told me a story he heard from some girls on a bus, people that are my age that would have been on a bus, when we were in school.
Sure.
And they witnessed something when they were on the bus that you would call Dogman.
Wow.
And it just blew our mind. And then we also heard farmers in the northern part of the county at that time had been, and we didn't, and like I said, you didn't know this because nobody shared this information.
No.
But once he told his story, then all these people 30 some years later decide we're going to share these little tidbits of stuff.
Wow.
And so we heard that the farmers in the northern part of the county had reported They called them big dogs, but they said they had red eyes, and they couldn't figure out what they were, but they were messing with their livestock. Well, regular dogs don't have red eyes, as far as
Yeah,
I
not
know.
generally.
I know. And then, oh yes, and then I then got an email from somebody. I'd have to go back and look it up, but they sent it to us. It's probably been within the last 6 months. Um, who was telling a real similar story to the one that Shannon LeGros forwarded to us. And I even questioned the person, like, did you send
The email.
the email to, and this person's like, no, I
Wow.
did not. So either this person did not remember sending the email, or there was two people with very similar stories from the same area at the same time. I personally think she forgot that she sent the email, to be honest, because that's way too much of a coincidence because it was very similar. So that being said, it seems like back in the 80s, there might have been some stuff happening.
Hmm.
I don't have any idea. Maybe it was just a pack of wild dogs. Who knows? I have no idea.
Right.
But um, one event you can chalk up as okay, maybe something crazy happened. When you get like 4 or 5 people telling you things
Hmm.
that stick in their minds 30 some years later,
Yeah.
then to me there was something that actually happened that was traumatic enough that they still remembered it and could share it. If that makes sense. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
um, I mean, but I will tell you this: I don't think there's ever been one Bigfoot reported in our county. Like, not even.
Okay.
Now I know the sheriff has told us that they've been called out on reports of people thought they saw something, but there's never been anybody who actually made a report like to the BFRO or made an official report that yes, this is what I saw. Just
Wow.
the sheriff's department got called out a couple times. We've been told on something that people thought was weird, and they kind of relayed it like I don't know. They kind of indicated it was Bigfoot, but they didn't want to say that
Right.
that's what they thought. But yeah, because we're in a spot where Bigfoot. I don't know. I mean, we're close to a lot of other Bigfoot hotspots, but
Okay.
we're just kind of right in the middle of the north of Columbus, and it's not really. It doesn't strike me as Bigfoot territory.
Right. But it's kind of curious that there was this cluster of people experiencing Dogman, and then did it just go silent as far as people having sightings, or that's the only time that you've been able to ascertain people had experiences was in that window?
That is the only stories we've heard that
Wow.
took place in the late 80s. Um, even the judge and I go back and forth about what year his Dogman sighting was
Hmm.
because um, it was either 86 or 87
Yeah.
or maybe 88. It was one of those because it's all based on whether I could drive or not.
Oh, I see.
but we but we but we know, like, we remember like the time period and stuff, but it's even then it's like what year was that? And it takes us even a little bit of like um just figuring out like what was I able to drive and when he was for sure living in that house and stuff. And it's so even that we're not 100% sure of the year. I mean, we were pretty sure, but
Yeah.
but it's still in that time period where everybody else had,
Right.
where we've heard all the other stuff. So, well, I don't know what that
I
means
don't
because
know either.
we definitely weren't like in that time period, nobody was looking for Dogman. I
Right.
mean, you
Yeah.
didn't even. I mean, and I think, and the crazy thing is I think Defiance, Ohio, which is northwest of us, they had a rash of sightings in the early 70s
Hmm.
around the train tracks. up there, to the point where I think Lyle Blackburn has gone up and done something up there in Defiance with, like, they have a Dogman festival or something, or they did. But that was the early 70s and nobody even knew. I mean, um, the way people described it were like wolf, it looked like a wolf man or a werewolf, you
Yeah.
know. So, um,
That's well, and honestly, I think it was only about the last maybe 15 years that everybody started talking about Bigfoot. That was a big hushed subject, much like dog and the emergence of Dogman stories. I'm sure they've been, I think the earliest one on record is out of Michigan from the 1800s, late 1800s, from
yeah,
some lumberjacks. But other than that, nobody heard a peep about it until I honestly, I really credit Linda Godfrey for kind of cracking the egg on that one and helping to push it mainstream. Obviously, she didn't act alone, but she was one of the voices that really got some traction. It was people like, what? That's out there too? And like everything else, once people feel like it's okay to talk about, then suddenly, well, this one time I was out in the field and, and then there comes these amazing encounters that people have had, but they just didn't have anywhere to put it until it became okay. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's crazy. Like, Linda's story is, the sheriff department kept getting all these reports, and she was a reporter at the newspaper, and they just said, "Hey, look, we don't know what to do with this. Do
yeah,
you want to?
yeah,
Do you want them?" And
yeah,
she was like, "I didn't know what to do with them," but she goes, "I kind of figured there had to be something to this
right.
because there's so many reports." And but I'm I'm with you. Like, so in Ohio, okay, growing up in the 70s, um, at least what I heard, I didn't grow up in the 70s. It was the 90s I grew up in. Um,
I'm still growing
anyway,
up.
anyway, um, but I mean, I mean, I remember being in, like, first, second grade. We love, I would, every week I'd get you get that Scholastic book thing, and I'd order any book on Bigfoot, any book on the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Remember that was a big deal. That's kind of died down. Um, the but any of those books on the unknown and stuff, but never once did you ever think there's a Bigfoot in Ohio? Okay, you thought it was in the Pacific Northwest, and the Patterson Gimlin film, was pretty good evidence. Um, it wasn't until I met Seth Breedlove
Mm-hmm.
and we started talking, and he had talked about the Minerva monster that he
Yes.
did a
Yep.
documentary on. And he's talking about it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, wait a second, there was a Bigfoot, like a big Bigfoot flap in the 70s. It was such a big deal. And Minerva is
Yeah.
in Ohio. It's not even an hour and a half from us. Okay.
Yeah.
But where it sits, so, like, we're north of Columbus,
Mm-hmm.
and Minerva is over south of Cleveland, over on that other side of 77 or whatever. It's the 77 is the main highway that goes from Cleveland down to West Virginia. So, because of where we lived, our news on our television, which was only 3 channels, if anybody can believe that, came out of Toledo,
Yeah.
which was northwest Ohio, up south of Detroit. We never saw anything on the news in Toledo about a Bigfoot. I mean, because this was a big deal. The Minerva monster was a big deal in the 70s. The national news came out. Um, it was in the newspapers all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
People came out to hunt this creature, I believe, if I remember right. I mean, it turned into a huge thing.
Right.
We never heard anything about it.
Wow.
I mean, it might as well have been like somebody robbing a gas station in, Cincinnati, as far as
Yeah.
we were concerned. We never heard any, and it might have changed, like, some of our perspectives, um, growing up, as if we thought that was possible. And
Right.
like, much probably the same way everybody grows up, is like, nothing cool happens where I live, you know?
You got to go somewhere else for the cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And now Ohio is that side of the state, the eastern side of the state, is a super hot spot. I mean, there's so many sightings that come out of there.
Bonkers. Yeah.
It's insane, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a couple of questions in chat. First with Chucky Danger. Have you ever seen a Dogman track or any other evidence?
I have been sent stuff
Okay.
that people have sent me pictures of unbelievably large canine looking footprints. I look, my family farms. I've been around farm animals. I've been around lots of stuff. Some of these tracks are so big, I can't even, other than like a lion or something, like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Like dinner plate size in some of them.
yeah, it's
I've seen a
huge.
few of
And
those
so,
images. Yeah.
like, what makes that? Now,
Yeah.
people have sent me pictures, as I'm sure you get pictures and video all the time. And some people really I have no doubt that they are seeing something when they're taking a picture or video, but it just does not translate very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing Dogman translates very well when it comes to pictures or video in my experience. And I mean, but one of my favorite guests, he has a dog. I mean, he has a, for lack of a better term, I think a dog man is antagonizing him. Okay.
Mm.
He's lives not less than an hour away. It is now, this creature has now showed itself to not, he had a face-to-face encounter with it. But it has now showed itself to his girlfriend and his two kids.
Wow. Yikes.
And he is, Brian's his name. And, he is determined. He's very analytical about this. He is now, on the other side, he's experiencing some health problems. He doesn't feel like he's got very long to be on this earth.
Oh.
Okay. And he's determined he is going to get the better of this creature.
Oh.
And he's a guy who knows his weapons, and he's loaded for, loaded for battle. And he is working on really pinpointing where this thing is going to show itself. And of course, he said, if you want to come, and no, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going out to,
Yeah.
I enjoy hearing other people's stories and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't, like, when it comes to Dogman, like I said, I don't know what this is. It does not sound, it's not I'm a mailman. Okay. I don't like dogs anyway, let alone a dog man.
Yeah.
But I've never heard a Dogman encounter that the people had it, that when it was over, they felt good about it, other than the fact that they lived to tell it.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah. And you kind of answered the second question in that, but I'll read it anyway. That was from Yeshua. He said, "Are Dogman encounters worse than Sasquatch encounters?"
I think 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that is based on, we have no real idea if out there people are going missing because Bigfoot and Dogman are eating them.
Right.
Okay. We don't know that. I mean, and maybe somebody knows that. I don't know that. Do you know that, Brent?
No,
that you're not
I have no
sharing
idea.
with me. Is
No.
Is Germer not sharing that with us in our
He's
group
not,
text?
He's not
that,
plugged it in yet. So
does he not?
he's holding out on us. He's holding out on us.
us.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows he's got the Bigfoot in his garage.
Yeah.
But
I think he built it a wing now, so it's probably in the house.
it's got an ensuite. It's got an ensuite bath.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, so unless they're actually killing people, which, there's people that have claimed that. I don't know that there's
Yeah.
hard evidence to support that,
Sure.
but there's a lot more warm and fuzzy experiences with Bigfoot because people always talk about, yeah, I'd like to go back out and see, people are always going out in search of Bigfoot.
Right.
I don't know that there's a lot of people going out in search of Dogman.
Yeah.
But I also think it's because what where do you start? I don't think there's even a guess at what they are, really.
Right.
So I I mean, I personally think they're more spiritual type beings that some people just encounter in a more physical sense.
Sure.
So I think something like that is pretty unpredictable.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I certainly would agree that of the two between Sasquatch and Dogman, the Sasquatch encounters are more incidental. Like you'll see a Sasquatch, it may look over and go, "Yeah, I see you there. I don't really care. I'm doing my thing." Whereas the Dogman encounters are like, "Oh, I see you, and I'm going to let you know that I don't like you at all." And people pretty universally feel absolutely threatened. Like they're pretty sure that this thing's going to eat their face. And then for some unknown reason, and it almost seems like they get a charge out of it, or it's their way of expressing themselves as alpha. Like, yeah, okay, you drive cars, but I can still eat your head. And
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what it is about them, but yeah, they're definitely more aggressive for sure.
And I had, unfortunately, an episode a week or two ago on a Friday. The gentleman, he had an experience out hunting with a couple guys in southern Ohio, way down south, almost to the Ohio River.
Uh-huh.
His audio was very bad. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's the danger of, not having a studio and flying people in. I don't have the Tony Merkel budget to fly people in to the studio.
That's why I got Zoom. All I could afford was a Zoom subscription.
Yeah. So you're at the mercy of other people's technical expertise and what they have available.
Right.
So Ruben was doing it in his car, and the audio was not great.
Oh, yeah.
But his story was great. And I tried as best I could to reiterate what he was saying when I thought it wasn't clear. But his story, like, I'm not a big government conspiracy type guy.
Sure.
Okay. Well, until the Epstein file thing yesterday. Anyway, but I'm not a big on like the government knows everything that's going on when it comes to Bigfoot and all that other stuff. Maybe you obviously UFOs, but I still don't think they know everything.
Right.
But he started telling us, he was telling a story, and he broke down and cried telling the story back to me, for the audience or whatever.
Yeah.
So something happened to him. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And within the story, the things that took place, he thought it was a Dogman. That's all the box he could put it in. And I just told him, I said, look, man, I don't think you ran. I mean, if you ran into a Dogman, it was under control of somebody else, because there was the existence of like dark uniformed with weapons guys on SUVs.
Okay.
And then there were lights in the forest that were mysterious and stuff. And he kind of described when he kind of shouldered off and squared up with this creature, even though it was tens of yards away. This thing was looking over at the woods and then looking back at him, like whatever it was, whatever those lights were in the woods were telling him, look, you can't. You know, you can't go get this person. And I just said, look, I think that's something else. I think you guys were in the wrong place, and there was something else going on. Now, was it the government in control of this thing? Was it some aliens control this thing? I have no idea.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
was some guys flying from, you know, Mars to somewhere else, and they had to make a pit stop because their dog had to take a leak, and their dog just happened to be 9 foot tall.
Just needed a quick.
Maybe.
Probably looking for mailmen.
Yeah. See, I don't listen. If I had that route, people better be leaving some good Christmas gifts if they got 9 foot tall dogmen running around.
That's horrifying, though. I just can't. It's something to really. I don't know. I mean, you try to conceptualize what would that be like. I mean, my ceilings in this house are 9 feet, and I'm thinking, what would like a big pile of werewolf look like that piled all the way up to the ceiling? And it would be nothing short of nightmare fuel. I mean, I don't know how you can cope with that. So my hat's off to everybody that's had an experience and didn't need some form of medication for the rest of their life, because that's got to be the most terrifying thing you could possibly witness, you know. And not that a big Bigfoot would be much easier, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think, and I say this to a lot of people when they ask me, do you go out Bigfooting and stuff, and I'm just like, what am I going to do if I see one?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't. I have heard the fear and the nerves and the unsettledness of people's voices telling me story. And I'm talking people who have served our country to the highest honors of taking care of stuff that, the rest of us don't want to take. People that have seen everything and telling me Bigfoot stories like it happened last night.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this was a decade ago, and I have not let it,
Yeah.
So
Still
those people who have training to handle circumstances that you and I probably can't imagine are still so shook by seeing something like that. Yeah. Well, what is it going to do to me?
Yeah.
Like I totally believe in the existence of a Bigfoot creature out there. I believe the people that call and tell me their stories. That I don't need to further prove. I mean, yeah, would it be cool to run into one? Maybe, but I don't know what it would do to me.
Yeah.
But like the judge always said when he had it, when he finally came forward with the Dogman thing, he's like, if that thing's out there, what else is out there?
Yeah, that's what occurs to me too. And when I got into this is a story I tell often, but I thought I knew all about all this stuff. But then when you start diving down the rabbit holes, you see how deep they go. So it's crazy what could be out there, not only what has been reported to be out there, but I think it's the sky's the limits. We got another question from Rachel Gets It Right. She says, do you have a favorite single sighting event you have heard of? For example, something like the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Oh boy. Do I have a favorite sighting event? I will tell you, so here in Ohio, we have the Loveland Frog story.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't know if it was, I think it was just a couple people in one night, if my memory serves me right. Mm-hmm. What the heck was that? That they saw, like a giant frog,
yeah.
Like, so what did they see? Did they see an alien or something? I think a lot. I got to be honest. I think a lot of stuff, can be attributed to extraterrestrial life.
Sure. Yeah.
I think a lot of what people see and do and I shouldn't say misidentify because you just don't know, but like that's just so odd to me to have a sighting of basically a giant reptile
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that you're calling a frog. And then the other one, and this is oh gosh, is the oh gosh, the lizard man down in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like there was some like real like something happened down there
Yeah.
to the one person's car that was destroyed. Now I've now seen bear videos where they've destroyed cars. So
Yeah.
maybe it was a bear, but things like that are fascinating because they don't they don't stick around.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. It's kind of like the Mothman. You know, Mothman was around for about a year and a half, and then nothing. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, there's some cool ones out there that I've heard about, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
That so what were people seeing? And the crazy thing is a lot of this stuff took place 100 years ago, or even more. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many stories from the 1800s and early 1900s that like the Snallygaster
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what on earth? Like there is that. I mean, the crazy thing about that is I think there was there oh the tobacco firearms agents of the day. I think there was one or two of them that died in an explosion
Oh.
that was attributed to a snallygaster sighting. And if you don't know what a snallygaster is, holy moly, go look it up.
Yeah.
It's got to be the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
That's another lizard one, though, right? With the
It's like a combination of like
Like
it's like a
fuck.
flying.
yeah.
What? Okay, what it really the way people describe it, it looks like I can imagine it would be a crane or a pelican
Okay.
with like an octopus or something in its mouth.
Right here.
Flying.
I'm gonna put
You
it
know-
up on screen just since we brought it up. It is a weird one, but it's almost like a dragon.
Yeah. It's something. It is crazy.
So here's a snallygaster. Some images from Google, courtesy of Google, of a snallygaster. Creepy looking thing. But
And there's there's a Snallygaster museum.
is there really? Wow.
Oh yeah. We've had I can't think of her name right now, but she's been on. She was
Grandpa
on the
Ed
show.
walked out and
Sorry. Hold on a
lit
second.
up a cigarette.
I
He's
forgot to
looking off.
rehide that. There we go. Almost played the clip again. What were you saying now? Sorry.
Oh God, here's Sasquatch Chronicles. Oh brother, here we go.
I was waiting. I was waiting to drop that one on you. Now you're reading the chat.
No, I just saw it.
So just to get to that comment here, I got to scroll way down. So where the hell was it?
What is he talking about? AI can never do what I do.
How soon before AI takes over podcasting? Does Blaine Grove think it's 3 years away or 5 years away? People will be rendering podcasts from AI.
Listen, I can talk about AI in the music business.
Oh, wow.
I could talk about AI in the music business, but this isn't the podcast to talk about that. I think.
Yeah.
But
He calls you Blaine Grove.
who called me Blaine Grove?
Wes. Sasquatch
gee.
Chronicles question.
Oh God, is that?
I was trying not to bust out laughing when I read that.
Oh gosh. Okay, I see. All right.
Yeah, no.
I see.
it's
Shots
Jeremy.
fired. Right.
Yep.
Is that okay? I mean, listen, where's Stacy Brown at? He's much better than. I call him, keeps him humble. I need to have a boot on my throat to keep me down.
Yeah. So we did have one more question in the chat. Well, we got several. I just fallen way behind. The guest lives or lived in Ohio. He lives in Ohio, Grandizer. And he says, any discussion on the Bessie, a.k.a. the lake monster in Lake Erie? some say before there was Dogman in Ohio, there was Bessie. You ever talked about
Well, I hate to break it to everybody. I actually so there's a podcast here called Ohio Mysteries, and Paula Schleiss, who is she's a award-winning reporter for the Akron Beacon Journal, has this it's a great podcast if you're
that?
an Ohio person. So they asked me a long time ago to come on and kind of talk about the Lake Erie Monster. Okay.
Oh.
So I did a deep dive into the Lake Erie Monster and followed up on some sightings and just some historical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lake Erie Monster is a sturgeon. I'm just here to tell you.
Okay.
So sturgeons, for people that don't know, are giant. I mean, they're giant fish that you don't just catch them really on a pole but they're giant. They were really, so they got fished almost to extinction in the 1800s, early 1900s in Lake Erie. I think when caviar became very popular, I think sturgeon is one of the main producers of that or whatever. But they just treated it in the early 1900s as garbage. And there were stories about them catching sturgeon, which were like 10, 12 feet long.
Yeah.
Okay. And they look like dinosaurs.
Yeah, they do.
Like they have not changed in appearance for like tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's forever. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They literally look like, so there was a huge rash of sightings of mysterious things in the 1800s. And then mysteriously, there was no sightings for about 100 years.
Oh, sure.
And it was simply because they had fished the sturgeons almost into extinction. And they put a ban on being able to fish them or capture or do anything with them. And lo and behold, once they got to repopulate and then get to the 100 year, because they live to be 100, 200 years old or something crazy too.
Yeah.
So and then people started having sightings again, I think in the 90s and early 2000s.
Oh.
So yes, I'm fairly confident to say, because Lake Erie there's parts of Lake Erie that are like 10 feet deep.
Oh, is it?
Like out in Lake Erie. So
Okay.
it's not a deep lake. It would not be conducive to having a plesiosaurus or anything like that hanging out, you know. So but no, so it just happens to be the one thing I have actually studied and know anything about.
Yep. Yep.
Did I plant that question? Is that somebody?
No, I think that I think it's a great correlation though, because a lot of people wouldn't have ever drawn that up. But you're right. I mean, if the sightings dry up and then when the sturgeon dry up, and they are monstrous. I did catch one on a reel, by the way, once.
Did you really?
On the Mississippi River, baby. We had an old saying, and I'd always heard it from the old timers. They say one in every 10,000 casts, you'll catch a sturgeon. And I never.
How big was it?
It was only probably about 18, 20 inches long. It wasn't huge, but it had the spikes and like that big rugged hide on it and stuff. And I didn't know what it was at first. And my friend, who was also a fisherman, I'm like, "What the hell is this?" He goes, "Oh my God, this is sturgeon." It was a smaller sturgeon, so I caught one.
Well, the one thing that I read from reports were that they would catch them and just throw them up on shore,
like a rough
and
fish.
then they would use them as a means to heat their cabins and stuff. Like they use them as
their
fuel.
firewood.
Yeah, it was like this is crazy.
After you squeeze out all the eggs, that's all they're good for is burning on a stove.
Yeah, like listen, there's no really good restaurant up there that serves sturgeon. I can tell you that on Lake Erie.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting though. I think that's a great take though, and that's I think that brings up a great point. For me, one of my challenges in all of this is that there's so many claims out there, and so many wild claims and ideas and stuff. And the hard part for me is like, well, they can't all be true, can they? And I don't think that they probably are, but I think that right now, and I don't know how to phrase this without sounding like a pompous ass, because I'm not trying to, and I don't consider myself the arbiter of truth, but it does get crazy, the kind of things that people claim and say, and they know, and they'll tell you all day long about it, but then it doesn't really stand up to a lot of scrutiny. You know what I mean? So I like that you were able to find that correlation, and that does make sense, and that literally is Occam's razor. That the simplest, most eloquent answer is probably the best, the truth. That is Occam's razor to a T. It's like, yeah, well, that makes sense. The sturgeon died out, and so did the Bessie sightings. And
and so Lake Erie was a place when I was a kid I spent a lot of time at. My grandparents had a boat, and we would be out there, and we'd be on the boat, and you would hear story. My grandpa liked to tell stories, and so did all of his friends and stuff. That was never anything we ever heard. Okay, so right away, like, I'm thinking, I'm not sure that this is something, because having grown up around the lake and being on the lake and hearing big tall fish stories stuff, I never heard that.
Yeah.
Okay, and that would have been something. Even though my grandpa was a pretty practical guy, I remember him talking to me about there being aliens in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
yeah,
And which I never, I vividly remember him saying, "Yeah, there's aliens down there." I know it. Now I don't know why he ever said he knew it, but so to me, if there had been even a hint at a lake monster,
yeah.
I would have heard it as a kid, and so yeah. So, but I think if you don't take some of these things, it's just like this, like we're talking about the snallygaster.
Yeah.
Okay, from the way people describe it, I can imagine it being a seabird with a octopus or squid or something
Sure. Yeah.
that scooped it up and was flying,
Yeah.
and somebody saw it and was like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And if you,
What kind of bird is that? It's a
yeah,
snallygaster.
what kind of monster is it?
Yeah.
But it, I mean, I can imagine it being that. Now, do I know that that's what it is? No, but to me, that could be a plausible explanation. But
Right.
how are we going to know? That story is another one that took place over a short period of time, and with I believe, like I said, with those federal agents being involved in an explosion was the end of it. Now,
Yeah.
did they blow up the one snallygaster that was? I don't know.
There was
I
only
don't-
one.
I don't know. Yeah, there's only one. God or whoever started whatever's going on down here said, "Look, I'm going to give this one chance. I'm not going to give it a chance to
You get one shot. If you make it,
Not good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm giving you a chance to procreate because you guys are really ugly."
Yeah.
But,
It's interesting too, because much like you growing up, I grew up on Lake Pepin in Minnesota, which is the widest point in the Mississippi River. It's 2 miles across, and it's kind of like Erie by the way you're describing it, though, because there's very deep parts, but most of it is all silt. I mean, it's all filled in from silt from the Mississippi River. But so generally speaking, it's not a really deep lake. But one thing that I had never heard growing up, but I ended up finding out as an adult. I mean, I swam in this river thousands of times throughout my youth, and sat on the shores, went out on boats, fished all over this lake. Never heard anything about it until one time when somebody claims they saw some kind of big creature in the water. Probably another sturgeon, honestly, but that became peppy. And apparently there was a legend from the local tribe of this creature in the water that was referred to as the tipper of canoes. And like it was so big it would knock over the canoes, and people would be in the water and having real trouble. But I'd never heard about it. But once somebody claimed they saw it, suddenly everybody's talking about, oh, I think I saw Peppy, and it was crazy. But my God, somebody should have warned me, because I was a little nugget in the water for years, and if there's a lake monster, somebody should have passed that along. But it's another case of the legend kind of grows out of the sensationalism. Now, when you did that interview, were you ever invited back since you killed the Bessie story?
No, I was not invited back. No, I'm still, Paul and I talk quite a bit. She's, like I said, she does a great podcast. You didn't even realize there was that many crazy things that happened in Ohio.
Yeah.
Like the research they have done on, missing people and murders and famous people and unsolved crime. She does a great job. And no, they enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not sure that she would have really loved me to come on and say that there is this big unknown creature lurking at the bottom of Lake Erie. I think she's probably more practical than that, and was glad that I made Lake Erie safe for her again.
Yeah, exactly. Got another question in the chat from Supernatural Station Podcast. That's Jaron, wonderful guy, a longtime friend of mine as well. And he says, what's your theory on the rake/pale crawlers?
Do I have to have a theory on something that I don't want to believe
you're a host.
exists?
Hosts have to have theories, Shane.
Well,
it was in the pamphlet.
I didn't get the pamphlet. Curiously enough, Ruben, who the gentleman I was talking about that had the whatever experience out in the woods that I thought might be a actual government exercise, he has another story that he's going to come on and share in a better surroundings with better audio, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he's described a creature that he encountered similar, because he also is part Native American and had some, there's another part to his story that he's going to share. As to why he feels like he's open to experiencing some of these things.
Sure.
And he described not like a rake. See, I don't even know what you would, like, people think a rake, in my mind, when I think of it, it looks like a guy with a really pale guy crawling, right? Like
yep.
Like that's the typical.
Yes.
I mean, what the heck? To me, those things are much like Dogman. Like, I think those are spiritual type things that you experience. Like, I don't believe there's an apartment somewhere where there's like Mr. and Mrs. Rake, sitting on the couch watching TV. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they're actual physical creatures. I think they are spiritual things that appear or experienced by the witness in different ways. It's kind of like a haunting, okay? Mm-hmm. Like, you can have a haunting and you can either hear noises, hear something bang around, hear the stairs creak, or then you can have doors slam, you could have things get moved, things disappear, and then reappear, or you can see a mist that appears to be a ghost, or you can see a full-bodied apparition that interacts with you. There's all different stages of like a haunting, and I think that things like Dogman and Rakes and other things that are spiritual or in nature that aren't truly physical beings on this plane of existence with us, I think that different people experience them in different ways. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know what, and I mean, we did an episode once where here you go. Early days, we had a guest cancel, and we had to have it. We had to have an episode.
Yeah.
So me and the judge picked a topic that we had wanted to discuss for a long time, and it was the um, Wendigo and now I'm losing what is the other entity that Native Americans see that they don't want to not just not just a
Skinwalker?
skinwalker, yeah.
Okay.
So skinwalkers and Wendigos. We decided we wanted to do some investigation in that and talk about it. And it seems like to us, those seem like very like they could be the same things.
Mm.
It's just that as you moved across the country into different parts of the country, it became something else. Kind of like, there's all those different names for Bigfoot. Like people, some call them the woolly booger or there's Sasquatch or the skunk ape or in Ohio, we called him the grass man and stuff. So to us, we got into that discussion. Like, so are these things really the same thing and that they're just called different things?
Right.
It goes all the way back to the beginning. Why do they call the Dogman up in North Dakota the Rougarou?
Sure.
They shouldn't be calling it the Rougarou,
Right.
and so yeah, so I mean that was just because we didn't have a guest. We just decided we were going to do a little research, and that was our 2 cents. And
Yeah.
doesn't mean we're right,
Mm-hmm.
but parts of it like really kind of rang the bell for us. Like, maybe there's something. There could be something to this,
Right.
and so is a rake just, a different part of the country's version of a Wendigo or a, skinwalker?
Yeah.
Or is, then you got the wraith, which is that the same thing as a rake? Or is that different than a rake? Because a wraith is
Vengeful
sometimes,
spirit.
yeah, described as some of the same thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
It is weird.
I just,
I think that a lot of people say and this is redundant for my audience probably, but I don't know if you and I have ever discussed it, but I think that the term rake is probably probably just a rebranding of a very old phenomena. I think they're just rebranded ghouls. That in the historical cryptic references talk of these gangly, semi-human type of things that would dig up corpses in graveyards, all the way back into the old days. So I think it's probably a very old phenomena, but you're right. It could be spiritual as well. And the interesting thing about that is Tex Weston, who's a good friend of mine as well, from Texas Front Porch, he saw one recently. And he's been dealing with what he saw and trying to understand it. He said he saw it go at night. He was out in Texas doing some research, and he saw this dark shadow, like small humanoid figure, but it scaled this wire framed like building. It was all dilapidated. There's just basically wire frame left. But he said he saw it go up onto the side and it didn't make a sound. He's like, I just don't know what to do with that, because. So it is interesting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
very good points.
And so, like the idea of a ghoul,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I mean, what the heck? Like, so to me, like I can reconcile that a Bigfoot is, flesh and blood, no matter what other aspects it has to it,
Mm-hmm.
but lives out in the woods and has a family unit and, is looking for food every day and has a function in nature. Okay.
Yeah.
But what the heck a function is a ghoul? Like,
Well,
like,
what if it was? What if it was? I mean, just as devil's advocate here. What if it was something that was helping, like just kind of like ants, bugs, and everything break down decomposing tissues, and they, make it so it doesn't poison our waters and stuff from having these mountains of corpses running around. Maybe they have some function like that, kind of utilitarian.
Well, the ghoul needs to hire Nita and rebrand itself.
It does. It needs
come out of the dark, and it could clean up.
Yeah.
She could help it. Yeah. It can just, if you don't want to pay, $30,000 for a funeral, just having, saying a few nice things and let the ghoul take you. You know what I'm saying? You don't need, cut out the middleman of,
Yep.
I don't want to pay for a funeral and then know that, the ghoul is dug up.
Well, I don't think you got to worry about that anymore, because I once in the Civil War hit, we started embalming corpses, and I think that took away what food source they would have.
Well, you say that, okay?
Uh-huh.
You say that, but how many times do you find, about once a year, isn't there a story about a funeral home that does absolutely nothing that it claims?
Yeah.
That it's.
Ooh. Yeah, maybe it's actually a ghoul drive-through.
And those people, and I got to be quite honest with you, those people, I would be okay with being labeled as ghouls.
Yeah, that's a whole different kind of ghoul. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But to that point, I do believe that every single the notion of dwarves and elves and fairies and stuff like that, I think all that stuff is rooted in something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And so there had to be something that somebody came up with the notion that there were undead or half dead or whatever creatures digging up people and eating them.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Well,
now the real scary thing is there's humans, just regular humans that could would do something like that and have done stuff like that over the millennia.
Yep, you're right.
If there's something sick and depraved, a regular human being has done it.
Yeah, or is actively doing it. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think sometimes the most scary things out there is other people. But Rachel gets it right. Asked, what do you think of one-off sightings potentially being creatures coming to our world through a portal, like Missing 411, but they are victims who went missing from their home world?
I think that is 100% a possibility.
Sure.
Because I don't doubt for one second that there's stuff I think we're crossing over inadvertently into other places, and I think people or things are crossing over into our realm.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question that is happening. There's just too many. Like I said, there's just too many people with stories or encounters. There's too many credible people that are doing research in places that they will tell you have portals.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about that, but it makes a lot of. It's crazy to think about it, but in some regards, it does make sense. And then not just to help explain how there's different creatures and stuff. It kind of makes a little more sense to how the world it works. I think if that makes sense, that there has to be that there is there's other timelines similar to ours, probably I think going on in different dimensions. And yes, they would bump into each other. There'd be places where you could pass. Now, are those natural places that just happen to occur, or were they made by people from other dimensions for nefarious reasons?
Yeah.
Is our dimension the best one, and everybody wants to come here and take what we have back to their. Who knows?
What if it was like a micro version of Pacific Rim, right? These are engineered things that are unleashed in our world, and they come in here to raise hell and then pop back over or something. That's a kind of a sobering thought. I never even thought of something like that.
I
Wow.
mean, well, gosh, is it was it Christopher O'Brien, right? He was the first, he was on the show a long time ago, and he was one of the first researchers out at Skinwalker Ranch, back in the 90s. Okay. Wild dude, great. He just recently passed away, I think within the last year, but he was, he was out researching all the cattle mutilations. Okay, that was the thing that was going on in out there on Skinwalker Ranch that got everybody's attention. Okay,
Yeah.
he told us on the show that he stood there once they got beyond the fact that it wasn't somebody going out there and just mutilating cattle, that it was another thing going on. Okay,
Yeah.
whether it was aliens or whatever, but they he said that he and a couple of the researchers stood there and watched a creature that we would probably describe as a dog man step out of like a hole, like it looked like a hole.
I heard about
Just
this. Yeah.
just step out of it. It said that wasn't the only thing that that researchers and people monitoring it had seen.
Yeah.
Step out of it. And he's like, so where are they coming from?
Right.
But then again, that's a place where the Native Americans hold sacred, and and they'll tell you, and that, some things you're not supposed to mess with out there.
Yeah.
So how long have these portals been available? And is that how, people are traveling across the galaxy?
Yes.
Yep. Does just because there's different dimensions, does that mean you walk through the porthole and you don't go through the portal and just end up on Earth number 7?
Right.
You might end up somewhere across the galaxy. I don't.
Well, that's
a
a good point. Yeah. I mean, we don't understand any of it. By the way, speaking of rebranding, I just want you to know that you've effectively been rebranded now as well. Did you know that?
What did Wes have to say?
He's telling us on the chat. He told everybody when they're asking you questions to make it out to Blaine Grove.
Okay.
So
right.
you've been rebranded. Just saying. All right.
Wait till I get into the group text tomorrow morning about 11 o'clock or 12, and then when it wakes him up and he's like, what are you, his usual, what are you guys talking about? I'm trying to sleep, and it's like noon or something for him.
At the crack of noon, he's crawling out of bed. Yeah,
exactly. If the Sasquatch Chronicles fans knew how hard he worked to create that show for them, they would just be astonished.
Oh, I know.
I know he's up by 3 every day to do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that's only because the dog needs let out.
Yeah, Teddy needs his love. All right, the unknown has a question. If Shane can remember Jody Cook on his show, can he
forget Jody Cook?
Can he let everyone know what Jody said about the Dogman encounter, about a Dogman that attacked 2 people? Just wondering if he could.
Ooh. So, I remember Jody Cook being on the show. It's probably 4 years ago. I don't really remember a specific. I'm not sure. I know we talked about the land between the lakes story. If that's the story that they're referring to, I don't really remember another story of Jody talking about a dog man attacking 2 people. Okay. To be honest, I do know though, at the time when we were talking to Jody, there seemed to be a lot of dogman activity in the Cleveland metro parks and around Akron, Ohio. And he had been on some stuff had happened there, which, that's Bigfoot territory.
Sure.
Yep. So, and I never, Jody and I had kept kept the contact sporadically. I have not reached out to him for a while.
Sure.
Just gets busy, but yeah, that was a great interview, just to hear what he had to say.
Yeah.
And one of the best things he told us was that he was giving a talk somewhere, okay, and that the oh gosh, what branch? It was a branch of the government, okay, like NSA or somebody like that, actually came up and introduced themselves to him and said, "We just want to let you know we're here, and yes, we're interested in what you have to say."
Oh, wow.
And we just didn't want you to get, basically freaked out that we were here. But he claimed, now was his claim, that the guy that took care of his website could see that different branches of the government, like the FBI, CIA, he called them the alphabet, agencies, were frequently in the on his website looking at reports that he posted.
Yeah.
So, that goes back to them. They don't know what's going on, as far as that phenomena goes. They don't know what's going on. They're probably just trying to figure out if there's something to it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So no, to answer that question, other than the Land Between the Lakes, I do not recall Jody Cook sharing a incident with a dogman attacking two people.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, that's a long time ago.
It is, but
I didn't know there'd be a test.
You're being quizzed. Well, obviously you don't know your own show that well. I know it happens to me all the time. And honestly, when I'm interviewed, some of the toughest questions people ask, is there one story that sticks out to you? And it's like, no, there's hundreds that stick out to me that I've covered. And these, I mean, I've always been with a position and not to, cast aspersions anyway. I think the sensational stories are exciting, but I'm excited when somebody has a door open they can't explain, or, if the lights are flickering. I mean, there's, that's pretty bizarre usually. Maybe electrical, but if it's truly paranormal, you're being presented with something that's not supposed to happen. So all of this stuff for me is amazing. And I feel like I'm always copping out on interviews when they say, what's the one story? And it's like, well, God, I don't know if there's one, there's hundreds of them. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I know what you're saying. I mean, and yeah, some have, blended together.
Sure.
And you have to go back and say, "Oh my gosh, I forgot about that one," because, I mean, we're always, we're trying to produce a show for the next week and the next week, and you're okay. Let's get this one out because we're doing it. Even though this all started out, I mean, it started out for us. Okay, we started out because this is what we wanted to do. Once you do this long enough and you get a fan, people that listen and really count on your show coming out, and giving them, something to pass the time or just excite them and get them, interested in something. That's what your focus then becomes: is how can I get another good guest on that is going to share something and hopefully, make somebody else. Like my big thing is people go, well, I don't have a good enough story. Okay. Like you said, like a door opening or something. Like, no, I go, all that stuff is important.
Yes.
And, because it helps fill in the picture. And it might also help somebody who, was like, I think I'm crazy, I think I'm crazy. I mean, that's like Ruben, the guy that told the story, down there on the river. I said, look, man, I just hope that somebody else has encountered the same thing down there in the woods, so that maybe you don't feel like,
It was just you.
Just you and your, and the other guys you were with. Maybe we can get an explanation for. I mean, I think some people would really like to have a mundane ho hum explanation
Yeah.
for some of their stuff. I mean,
Yes.
to be quite honest, especially when they find out coming on I don't send them a check or even a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Get.
I see Dave. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Dave Scott popped in. Good to see you, brother. From Mr. Spaced Out Radio himself is in the audience. So good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in. Yeah. You got to meet Dave Scott sometime. You guys would have a great talk, too.
Well, as long as he doesn't call me Blaine.
Well, he calls me B. Arthur, so I don't know, because I'm a Golden, he says, and I call him Betty White. So, yeah, you're probably going to get a nickname out of that deal, too. Just warning you. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. He does a great show over there. Spaced Out Radio follows this show as well.
Well, should I see? I almost feel like if Wes has given me a nickname, it's kind of like the scepter, being placed on your shoulder, right?
Sure.
Like I knight thee, Blaine, and
Yeah, I didn't even get a nickname from Wes, so you already. or not one he shared with me anyway.
Yeah, brother.
There might be some. So now, oh God, I did want to ask you this because obviously, music is a big part of what we do as well. I mean, it brings people into the experience. The theme song in your song is a song that I had on my playlist forever on Spotify too. How did you get that song? Do you know the person that wrote that song or?
Yeah, I wrote the song. What are you talking about?
From the Shadows?
Yeah. That I wrote that song. We wrote it.
Oh, beautiful! I didn't know that.
So the gentleman that sings it, Mike Allen, his dad was a famous country songwriter. He wrote wrote a big song for John Michael Montgomery called oh gosh, I can't even think of it. That's terrible. But his dad was a big time writer. So him and a gentleman named Nolan Neal, who has passed away. He was super talented, and another guy, right, with David Wade. We all, I've been writing music for years,
right?
And we wrote that. That song actually got pitched for some sync opportunities for like horror movies.
Oh yeah, I can believe it. Yeah.
And so when we were, me and the judge were deciding, what we were going to name the podcast, I said, hey, look, I got this cool music already, let's call it, but somebody had already used used the title In the Shadows,
right?
Which is the actual name of the song.
Right.
And so we just called our show From the Shadows, not realizing that would kill us on any kind of search engines because nobody's looking for shadows. You know what I'm saying? They're all looking for paranormal.
Oh, okay.
Sasquatch. Nobody's looking for.
That's really cool. I didn't.
But
know
what's really cool though is people from over the years have asked, like they all think I've had people ask if that's Ozzy Osbourne. Singing
he sings it brilliantly. The guy is very good.
Yeah. He did another song that we did for Sync for scary movies called Talking to Ghosts. And it's we have that up somewhere too. It's great. Mike Allen's great, and Nolan Neal produced so that song, like, he produced it on his laptop for that. I mean,
nice.
he was a genius.
Yeah.
That's
so cool. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know it, Shane has written and co-written several very famous songs. So you may or may not have known that, but now you know. I didn't even know that was your song. That's so cool. Yeah. I love that song. I've been listening to it for years, and I was like, oh, and then we met, and I was like, wow, that's great. He got that song. I wonder how he got permission for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, Spotify does not pay us every time it's played.
Oh, well, yeah, because you'd be getting a lot of money from me.
It'd be like 27 cents.
Yeah,
I would get for
make
that.
$1.50 in a good year.
Not even. Not even.
Really? It's not. I don't know I don't have any of my music hosted on Spotify, so I don't know any of it. But
It's not good.
no,
It's not good.
Okay.
Not good.
Well, I mean, but it's good exposure, and you're an incredibly talented guy for just being able to do all that.
Well, I write with a lot of really talented people. As a matter of fact, next week's guest is going to be, I got a two-part I'm copying Sasquatch Chronicles. I know Wes loves that one, but I've got two guests because they had short stories.
I think he's
but
used
actually,
to it.
the first part is a songwriter named Sonia Lee, who is she's got an independent deal right now, but she wrote a couple #1 hits for the Zac Brown band back in the day.
Okay.
And she has a cool little ghost story she's sharing, and so she and I are collaborating on some stuff too. And I mean, it's fun to meet those. Well, I'm still waiting. So I'm friends with Tanya Tucker. She has a Bigfoot story.
Oh, nice.
And she has offered to come on and tell the story. Now,
Hell yeah.
it's her dad's story.
Okay.
And, but I'm going to bust Wes's chops here a little bit. And as famous as Tanya is, it's not as famous as one of his biggest fans, Carole King.
I know. And he didn't even know who it was.
Didn't know who Carole King was. No.
Good luck with that music stuff.
Yeah, like he's just like, it's just some nice older lady that buys all my merchandise and sent me and I'm like, you don't know Tapestry, like one of the greatest albums ever written? No, I don't know who Carole King is. It's like, golly. Yeah, she just calls every now and then, and no big deal. I'm like,
yeah.
Never once did I get a text from Carole King saying, hey, Wes Gerber said I should get a hold of you, that you write too, and maybe we would.
Me either. Me either. I don't I don't think I get messages from anybody really famous ever. So you guys are already way ahead of me on that one, but that's okay. These are great people anyway. But I think the music thing is really cool, and I'm really impressed that you wrote that song. I love that song. And,
thanks. Well, people ask about it all the time, and we just, I mean, it's up there on Spotify for people to go check out, along with a lot of other stuff. I think you can search a Shane Grove playlist and maybe get all the songs that I've had cut by different artists and stuff.
Oh, very cool.
I know there's one that's that you can go through my website and find or whatever, but
nice.
and some people know some of the people on there. I mean, some people won't, but we've done some. When you said Wraith, we did a couple songs for a horror movie called The Wraith Within.
Oh, okay.
The movie was not good, but the music we wrote, I think, was better.
That's the challenge, though, isn't it? Because I guess when you're doing that, if the movie is successful, then the music will, and it's good, that'll automatically launch, a lot of opportunity. But if the movie sucks, people don't really care about the playlist anymore.
No, and we did just get some a movie that we wrote some music for is just got picked up by Netflix. So it's called American Outlaws, and it's the story of all those kids. I can't think of their name, but it was two brothers and a sister that went on a cross country crime spree 7, 8, 10 years ago. The Doherty, they called themselves the Doherty Gang.
Okay.
But we wrote a song that Way Jennings, who's Waylon's grandson, sang in the middle. We got the scene and we wrote the song to the scene, and
cool.
We didn't know if anything would ever happen with it. And we just got word that it got picked up by Netflix. So I mean, that's kind of cool that we'll be able to tell people that. But
Speaking
Yeah.
of movie projects, you and I were talking about one before, and
Yeah.
and an incredible character. Just in case Wes is still out there listening,
So yeah,
tell us about this, Shane.
I mentioned Stacey Brown. Well, Stacey Brown wrote wrote and produced a short film that I helped him produce, and it got a good some good acceptance down in Florida. It sold out a couple theaters, so we kind of kicked around the idea of doing a full length feature. And Stacey Brown and those, because Stacey Brown's a super talented guy.
Yeah, he
He's
is incredible.
he's crazy talented. So anyway, I'm writing the full script for this movie, and when you're writing a script and you're creating characters, you got to come up with names for people.
Sure.
And so there's a really important character in this that just happens to have the name of Wes Thomas. So, and of course, when Stacy was reading this, he's like, "Wait a second, what's this all about? We're going to name anybody else after podcast hosts or whatever?" So, so yes, you and Wes will be immortalized in a Stacey Brown production here.
Oh, very
Hopefully, the idea is this is going to get filmed in November, but I also have to get the script finished.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's really cool. I'm honored for what it's worth, and I'm sure Wes is honored as well.
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I could change it. I could change it to Russ Thomas and say it was close enough.
Wayne,
I mean,
Wayne Thomas.
yeah, Blaine Thomas.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's it should be fun. It should be. I described it to a writer director friend of mine the other day as The Shining meets The Witch.
Ooh.
So it's kind of a period
piece.
It's kind of a period piece. Takes place in the 1880s or something in Florida, and so hopefully it'll be shooting in November. So
cool. Excellent.
We'll see.
That's very cool, man. So what's coming up from the shadows? What's going on in the future of your endeavors here?
I got lots of people lined up for interviews. So, we got some cool, I think we got some cool guests. Like I said, we're kind of making our way to that Mohegan Bigfoot Festival in September on the 20th. So if you're in Ohio, and the good thing is I do not think the Buckeyes play on the 20th. I told them I wasn't coming to the festival if they did anyway. So I think because in Ohio in the fall you have to schedule stuff around the Buckeyes. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. That's also the day of the Mothman Festival, but it's kind of a different crowd.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be doing that, and then we're just grinding away, trying to do good stuff and keep building the audience and the fan base, and
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I owe so much to to all you guys that have mentored us mentored me along the way. I mean, yeah, I consider you and Wes good friends. I mean,
thank you, brother.
I've told people often that if we were put out our text messages in our group, that would be a show unto itself. Sometime, but no, you guys have done a lot from the early days of having us on and helping promote the show, and
for sure.
And we've done as much as we can to help you guys, but it's not as nearly as much as you guys.
Wow.
But that's the thing is getting into this is not just meeting the people with the stories. It's meeting all you guys that do this too. And because I think we're all fascinated by this subject, the paranormal, the supernatural, whatever it is. It's good to have good, solid people that you can talk to behind the scenes and just check in with and you know, help navigate the way. You know what I'm saying?
No, I rely very heavily on talking with you and Wes as well, and several other friends of mine in the field, because I mean it's kind of a unique situation, and we're all in our own little bubbles, and it's really cool to have that collaborative spirit where we can, hey, what do you think of this? Is this stupid? Is this a good idea? What do you think of this intro? I mean, we bounce things off of each other, and it's been a godsend for me just having those connections, and so I really appreciate it. Likewise, brother. I mean, your friendship's been really awesome and important to me. And if I've helped lift your boat at all, man, I'm thrilled. I think the lion's share of that probably is on Wes, but I'll take a bow. I'll take a bow.
Listen, I got to. Yeah, we have to pay homage to the king, right? He's still holding the scepter, but no, he is. Yes, he has been very gracious.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to help any of us out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But a rising tide, I think, raises all ships. You know the saying.
Oh yeah.
And I think because we're all in this for the same thing, the discovery of what this stuff is, and to help people who really need answers.
Yeah.
And it only helps if there's a collective group of people that are in it for the right reasons.
Right.
And it just helps everybody else out. So
Amen, brother. Well, we're about out of time. It's been 2 hours. Has it gone fast? You've gone okay for you?
Is it 2 hours? I mean, I could go another 2. No, just kidding. My alarm will be going off in 5 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well,
but that's okay.
Thanks for taking one on the chin and staying up late with us, brother. It's been a real pleasure having you here.
Anytime that I can be called a different name by Wes and get to hang out with you, and I'm just glad that Nita apparently has stayed up too, because she's in Virginia. She's in Virginia, and she's stayed up past her bedtime to answer questions that I can't even read. So anybody in the chat, I'll go back through, and if there's something specific that I can answer, I will. But thanks to Nita for keeping up. And I don't know where Phil's at. Phil should be up watching too, but I don't think he's.
Yeah, Nita says, yes, still here.
Boy.
A lot of people are thanking you for coming on. They're saying great guest. So appreciate it, brother.
Thank you for everybody that's watching. I mean, it's important.
Yeah.
It's important, when Brent puts on a show, tune in.
Amen.
It's important.
Amen. I like the way you think, brother. So, ladies and gentlemen, check out From the Shadows podcast, available on all the podcasting apps, wherever you get your podcast from. Just do a search. Wherever you're listening to The Portal or Sasquatch Chronicles, Shane's right there in there with us. So, definitely support what he's doing. Follow, subscribe, and listen to the episodes, guys. They're doing great shows over there. So, that's about all the time we have for tonight, everybody. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the questions from the chat. I'm sorry if I missed a bunch. I did the best I could keeping up, and I think we did okay. But thank you for all of you guys for taking part. Hello to Rumble. Hello to Facebook. I saw Mike Prines over there, Justin Goodearth, Barbara Mora, and who else was over there? Oh, Big D was over there on Rumble as well. I didn't see anybody chatting from X tonight, but that's okay. If wherever you're watching from, thank you for your love and support. Thank you for all of our channel members. Thank you to our mods, and thank you for hitting the like on your way out because you love the show. So that's all the time we got for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You all take care. Remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. I'll be back on Friday night. I think Sheldon will be joining me. So until then, guys, take care. Head over and check out Spaced Out Radio. Dave's going to be launching the ship over there, so check it out. All right, guys, that's it for us. Good night, everybody.
Night.